Being single used to be seen as a negative, but more and more singles of all ages are making the conscious decision to remain single. We'll discuss some of their reasons so you can decide if they're valid. And later, could having less sex actually be a compliment? Or is it really a bait and switch? Welcome to the talking phase. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Talking Phase podcast. My name is Tom, and as always, I am joined by my beautiful and talented co-host, Pam. Pam, what is happening with you?
Wow, I'm coming down from our trip to Miami. We got to see Taylor again.
Woo-hoo!
And let me tell you, the Hard Rock Stadium down there in Miami is amazing. We had what I thought weren't going to be great seats, but they turned out to be pretty excellent. They were 300 level, but in that stadium, we were right smack in the middle, third row in the upper level. And we got to see the whole show, sang. My voice is a little raspy today from all of that singing. And yeah, it was an amazing time. I got to take Nikki all around Miami and show her where I grew up, which I don't know why we romanticize so much about where we grow up when we're in our 50s, but I clearly do that. When you're actually down there and you're driving around where you went to high school, it doesn't look as exciting as it felt when you were 17 or 16.
Sure.
But it was a really, really good time. We had great weather, nice and warm down there in Miami. South Beach is hopping no matter when you go.
Yeah.
So yeah, it went really fast. And it was a great time. Did you have a nice weekend?
Sure. Yeah, I've been having fun. Before I tell you what I've been doing, I got to tell you one of the funniest things that have happened. You guys, anybody who's listening to the show knows that have told several bad dating stories on TikTok, and several of the women I've dated have followed us on TikTok, and none of them have ever commented, to my knowledge, until this week. And this lady that I dated earlier in the year, those of you who remember the story, the lady who broke up with me because I sent her a country song and she kind of took it as a marriage proposal almost. She doesn't like this podcast.
She's crazy.
Yeah, I'm not going to go that far, but she's definitely not the person I would like to spend the rest of my life with. Let's put it that way. And usually I use fake names because, I've always tried to protect the innocent, but because she gave a shit in these comments, I'll just say a little shout out to Jody for her absolutely shitty message on TikTok. She offered no advice. She just said she didn't like the podcast. So, you know what? Here's a big fuck you to Jody. All right. Now with that, I will just tell you, I've kind of got a big announcement to make. I am moving.
So exciting.
It is exciting. At the same time, I'm not overly excited about it because 3 years ago this month, I decided to move out of Salt Lake City after living there for most of my life. And these last 3 years have kind of been nomadic a little bit. Moving from Florida, I went from Utah to Florida. Then I drove a truck for 9 months, which was awful. Don't ever do that. And then for the last year, I've lived here in Georgia, and my company made it pretty much, I don't want to say imperative, but definitely made it worth my while and made it a really important thing for me to go to Utah. So
back he goes to the Mormons.
Yes. Not going back to be a Mormon, just going to be amongst them. Anyway, so not looking forward to that because the snow sucks, but I'm really excited about seeing my kids. Other than that, this last weekend, I was able to spend some time over at Danine's house, my sister-in-law that I talk about, who lives here in Atlanta. I helped her build some shelves. And then on Sunday, I drove down to Columbus, Georgia, and spent the day with my nephew. We did an episode a couple of weeks ago about my absolutely shit-heel brother, who abandoned 5 of his 6 kids. This is one of his kids that he abandoned. So I spent the day with him. It was great to see him. But it's kind of a busy weekend, but had a great time. So with that, Brian, what's going on with you? Oh, I'm sorry, Pam.
No, I was going to say a couple things. I was going to say that we started watching The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives last night because you're moving back to Utah. So in solidarity with you, Nikki and I watched an episode of that. And, I think we're going to continue. Maybe we can talk about that, at the not a full episode on that, but like we can touch on it if you run into any of the girls from the show while you're there in Utah.
My son knows one of them.
It's we watched the whole episode. It was bonkers. Even for me, who loves reality TV, they're crazy and they're very young. And I said to Nikki at one point, they were just at a burger place, and I was like, you know what? I just can't help but imagine that Tom will be sitting at a table in some place where they're recording the show, because the show was a big hit. But yeah, I couldn't imagine you there as I watched that episode. But there you will be.
There I will be.
All right, now on
Brian,
with the show and our next introduction.
Yes, Brian, tell us, are you
Howdy,
excited
howdy.
about me moving?
Am I excited about you moving? I mean, it's going to be a lot easier for you for travel, I'm sure, because we've been going out to Salt Lake a lot. We were out there like 3 times in the past 6 weeks before we started traveling for the rest of our quarter. So yeah, it's been good.
Brian, do you live in Utah?
No, I'm over in Indiana.
I didn't know where you lived. All right.
But no, other than that, let's see what's going on. We're doing a lot of travel. We're going to be in Tennessee, Florida, Michigan, all over God's green earth. So it's good though. Like good travel. We're busy, so busy is good in our world. So beyond that, and then Tom moving, yeah, not too much going on.
Sounds like fun, you guys. Sounds like a good time.
Absolutely.
What are we talking about?
Let's get into the show today, and then we're going to start this out because I ran across an article on BuzzFeed. Now, I'm not a BuzzFeed, I don't subscribe or anything like that. So I think it's great. I never spend the time to actually peruse it. It's just when it's served up to me, I'll read it. And so this article was served up to me, and this guy who wrote it, his name is Michael. Spelled funny, by the way, Mychal, which, by the way, Brian and I have a coworker who spells his name that way. But anyway, Michael wrote this article where he interviewed a bunch of people who have chosen to stay single, or at least so they claim. And he compiled all their reasons and wrote a bunch of quotes about them. And there are 25 reasons. And right now there are over 232 comments on this article. And I'm going to tell you, the comments are fire. They are
as
so
always
awesome. But these are 25 reasons that people have decided to remain single. Now we're not going to go through all 25 of them. In fact, I don't even know how many we're going to get to. But we do want to hear if you guys have decided to remain single. Write it in the comments. Shoot us a note at talkingphase at gmail.com. We'd love to kind of keep this conversation going, but I sent the article to Pam and said, hey, we should do an episode about this. And so what we decided to do is pick a couple of the more noteworthy reasons to share with you. And again, there are 25 of them, and some of them are hilarious. Some of them are
ridiculous,
but some of them are very valid.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I've been making TikToks ever since my breakup. I've kind of been on that side of TikTok where all they do is talk about staying single. And so I found myself making a couple of videos just to find out what some of our listeners and viewers over on TikTok would think about, the prospect of, hey, we're in our 50s, we're divorced. Is there any good reason to be in a relationship? And a lot of the comments I got, I swear, it really made you just sit and think about it, because there's a lot of great arguments for staying single. And then there's a lot of not so great arguments, but it's clearly a very hot topic right now.
Absolutely. Especially for people our age, I think.
Yeah. We're just done. We're through it. We've been there. We're just exhausted.
Absolutely. All right. So do you want to go first with the one that you chose, or do you want me to go? You tell me.
Yeah, let me see which one I want to read here. Well, let me read my favorite one. I tried online dating and it was trash. Amen. I don't go out either. So unless I meet him pumping gas or at the grocery store, I am screwed. And I know a lot of people who feel that way. And I see a lot of people that feel that way. I laughed when I read most of these, or I just found myself shaking my head going, oh my God, that is completely relatable. I happen to belong to a couple social groups. I feel that I am a social person for the most part, so I can not totally relate to those being the best ways to think about meeting somebody. But I have seen a lot of people who do feel that if it's not that type of organic, like someone walks up to you and says, hey, you're pretty, hope you have a nice personality. Can I have your phone number? They're just giving up because dating apps are trash.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. As you read that, I was thinking about it going, so this article was supposedly people who've made the conscious decision to stay single. And you read that one, it's like, well, I tried dating, online dating, and it's
Right.
trash, which it is.
Right.
And I don't go out. But so unless I meet him pumping gas or the grocery store, I'm screwed. So they're open to meeting someone and they
Yeah.
consider themselves screwed if they don't.
Right. You're right.
So
And so
I don't
that's
know if
not
they've made
really,
that conscious decision to stay single.
yeah. I
They've
think
made
that
the
a lot of
conscious
people
decision to not
make,
try.
right. A lot of people making that decision definitely are doing it because the experiences are so bad that I think that our ego and our self-esteem is so tied to like seeing people in successful relationships that if we're not in a successful relationship, it's better to say, I have decided to stay single than it is to say, you know, life has decided that I'm going to stay single.
That's right.
More accurate. So how about one of yours? What was one of the ones that you liked?
All right, mine is a two-parter. This is my favorite one that I read, and I read all 25 of them, and I probably read half of the comments. So I spent a lot of time looking at these. So my favorite one is, I don't have the time nor the energy to devote to a house plant, let alone a partner, and I'm fine with that. I don't have a burning need to be coupled with someone. Okay, so that's great. I think that's somebody who's just said, you know what? I don't have the time, so I'm staying single. That's a
No, thank
conscious
you.
decision. But then that same person wrote a comment,
Right.
and her comment, I think it's a her. I guess I don't know that for sure, but their comment is, happy to report I do now have a house plant. I'm growing basil from clippings. It's doing okay. It's not dead, but it still doesn't bode well for the time and energy I have to devote to a relationship. Meh. I live a full life, and given the landscape of men at the moment, I'm not missing anything.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue with her on that one. And I think that, you automatically assumed it was a woman because she's talking about a plant. And I think that we just associate somebody who's trying to grow a plant with being female. And it probably is female.
Well, I think at the end she said, and I think the reason I thought it was a woman is because she said, given the landscape of men at the moment. So it might be a
Oh,
gay guy, but
right. I'm positive it's a woman. I think that she's correct on the landscape. Although, I went out this weekend with a couple of good girlfriends and we went to a really large event right in Cary, which is close to where I live. And I think that the landscape of men is not as bad when you're out at
oh,
events or with your friends having a good time. I think that dating apps have created this horrible illusion that the men on dating apps are the only men are available. And I did see actually a couple of men at this event that I have swiped left on dating apps. And it's so funny because I went up to one of them and I was like, I recognize you. And he's like, you do, from where? And I was like, I'm positive it's a dating app. And he said, I don't remember us matching. And I said, yeah, we didn't match.
you think
But
I'd
that was
swipe right on
it,
you ugly piece of shit? That's what you said,
no,
right?
and it wasn't even that. He was just, I've seen him probably 4 or 5 times on dating apps, and he was much older looking in person.
Oh,
I would say probably late 60s. And that's again the problem with dating apps. But when you meet people in person, I think that you just give them more of a chance.
yeah.
You have a conversation and decide whether you like their personality, and then you kind of decide whether they are somebody that you would date. And I think that the landscape is not bad in my area, but on dating apps, horrendous.
Yeah. Well, I will say this, two quick things. When I told a friend of mine, I was talking to her the other day and I told her I was moving back to Salt Lake and she's single. In fact, I made a TikTok about her the other day. She's the one I made that TikTok about, who found out that the guy she was dating was
Oh,
married. Yeah.
right.
She said, well, the dating here sucks. And I said, the dating sucks everywhere.
Yeah.
So
Maybe worse in Utah.
yeah, maybe, who knows?
Only
Anyway,
because
the other thing,
I'm just thinking of the Mormons that you aren't
yeah,
anti-Mormons.
you gotta, I'm not anti-Mormon. I'm just anti-dating someone who's Mormon.
Okay. I'm
But the
sorry.
other thing I was going to say is that Brian is probably taking pictures of his studio right now and is going to be texting you all sorts of pictures of all of his plants, since you just said that you associate plant owners with women.
I see. I'm sorry. I apologize, Brian.
You know, Pam, I did used to have a nickname back in the day with all my plants. I was called Plant Daddy. I'm just saying.
Somehow, I don't even doubt it. I don't even doubt it. Don't send me those pictures. I do not care about your plants. I cannot keep a plant alive to save my life. And it's been like that my whole life, and I'm perfectly okay with that.
Maybe you
All
should
right.
grow basil from clippings. I'm
Yeah.
just kidding.
Zach failed at growing basil this summer.
Oh, I
So there are no green thumbs in my home.
All right.
So let
You
me
go.
read
Next one.
another one of these. Yeah. All right. The men my age that I am attracted to are not looking for a strong, intelligent, independent, self-confident, relatively attractive 60-year-old.
Wow.
They want a young, malleable woman without enough life experience to challenge their ego and needs. I want to be with someone I love and want to be with, not because I need to be with them. So clearly she took this assignment very seriously.
Mhm.
And she reminds me of Dimitri from the TikTok I made, because I love nothing more than a person who is here to tell you all of the qualities that they have. And that's what we do. You know, I think the most I say about myself is tall, attractive, and a good sense of humor. And a lot of people might not even agree with that. But this woman really thinks the world of herself.
Yep.
But I do love the end of that. I do agree with her that you should only be with somebody that you want to be with, and not because you need their money. You know, I say all the time, I'd love to have a man around because I don't like to climb up onto the bar stool to change the light, which I just did a couple of days ago. And Nikki holds me while I climb up there. But you know, when I talk about needing a man, it's because the toilet's broken, the garbage needs to go out, the light needs to be changed. I will probably never wind up in a relationship with somebody out of need, nor should you. It should only be generated by want.
Yeah. Well, and that's what TaskRabbit is for. If you don't,
You've told me about that. I'm not spending $60 for somebody else to change my light bulb either. I will do it.
Okay.
All these things get done. I just think that when you've been married a long time, it takes you a while to settle into the fact that you are now the one that does them.
Yeah. Now that, by the way, that one, it's always interesting to me the way people word things. Because if you look at the very first sentence, the men my age I am attracted to are not looking for what she describes herself
They
as.
can get younger girls.
Yeah, but she's attracted to those guys who are not attracted to her.
Because they're hot. You know, she even describes herself as relatively attractive. And to say they want a young, malleable woman without enough like life experience to challenge their ego, I don't know about that.
Yeah, you never know.
I've done quite a bit of dating. I've never gotten the impression that somebody thought I had too much life experience, because otherwise I don't think that they would even bother to meet you. Again, this sounds like a woman who can't meet a man that she finds acceptable. And so she is deciding, quote unquote, to stay single.
Yep.
You know, I get it. It's very easy when I'm not in a relationship to say, wow, you know, being single isn't so bad. I really enjoy it. And I'm not lying. I really enjoy it.
Yep.
But there are a lot of things about being in a relationship and having a significant other that I also enjoy. So
Yep.
I'm not in this category of single forever, even though a lot of people make it sound really great.
Yeah. Single forever for right now.
Yeah. Single
you
until somebody comes knocking on my door to
Yep.
deliver a pizza at 50 with a hot body, tons of money in the bank, and he's only working for fun.
Isn't there like an entire porn segment about pizza delivery or something?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I'll look after this.
There you go.
You had another one of these that you like?
Yes. And when we finish this, I do have to read one comment out of all the 200 or so that were out there. So this last one that I want to read is: dating costs money and time.
Oh,
See,
genius.
by the way, one of the reasons I like this one is because we've talked about the dating time calculator that I built in Excel that figures out how many hours it takes to date. Dating costs money and time. However, a relationship with someone who will live with you and share expenses is worth it.
I love this one.
Just being able to split the rent and grocery bill is awesome. Getting started is always the hard part.
Oh, he needs a roommate, not a
Yeah.
girlfriend or a wife. He needs a
Big-
fucking roommate.
Yeah. And by the way, it's interesting. He never or she never says he's a man or a woman. So this could
Oh, I feel
easily
like it's
be
a
a woman
man.
or a man.
Oh.
I'm pretty sure it's a man, but we don't know that for sure. But it's funny that we both went right there.
God, now I'm rereading it, and you know what? I'm here to tell you that, well, he's saying dating costs money and time. I assume that most men are footing the bill, but
That's true.
we know from TikTok that that's not the case.
That's true.
And yeah, I think I would love to find somebody that would move in with me and just split the bills and help me with rent and all of those things. And we don't even have to date. Like, come on, let's go. I have a guest room.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I've seen a bunch of TikToks that talk about that. They say, can we just skip the whole dating part? Just move in. Let's just figure out if we like the same Netflix movies.
Honestly, romance is overrated. I find that like this person is funny because he's like getting started is always the hard part. And that's no lie, because finding someone that will move in with you and split the bills is not easy. Like finding somebody that you even want to see their face that much. Like
Yep.
I feel like I'm at a point in my life where I don't really feel it necessary to live with a man. I could date a guy that lived a few miles away. We hang out whenever we want at whoever's house we want, and then we go back to our own houses. You don't really even need to cohabitate unless you need to split the rent and the grocery bill.
There you
In
go.
which case, you better keep dating.
Yeah. Well, how about this? Is it all right with you if we just finish this up with this one comment?
Sure.
Okay.
You want to be done with these?
Well, I think we could do like 3 hours of these. You want to do another one?
Yeah, I have one more that I'll do.
Okay.
Perhaps it's different for younger people, but for 45 and older, it's a gender war. Plain and simple, the open hostility toward women from men who have had a sour divorce and yet want to get laid is astonishing. And you know, I know how much you love gender specific
Yes.
accusations like this. So I feel like you probably have something to say about this one.
Yeah. And you know what? The way she wrote that, and again, I'm assuming it's a woman because of the way she wrote it. The open hostility toward women from men, I promise you, whoever this lady is, the open hostility toward men from women is equal.
Yeah,
There is
I
no
often have it. So I get it.
I mean, women hate men and men hate women. And I don't know why we have to hate each other. And it really is a gender war because, it's like I was watching a show the other day where this guy says, "You're not going to believe how bad my day was at work." And the woman he was with goes, "Well, mine was worse." And he goes, "It doesn't have to be a competition."
Right.
But it seems
That's
to be
my whole marriage.
yes, but it seems to be that women hate men and then men have to hate women even worse. And so women step it up to hate men. And it's like this constant escalation of hatred based on what?
I'll tell you what.
Okay.
Somebody has to be at fault for the reason that we're not all in successful relationships. And so the women are blaming the men. And I'm right there with them. My experience, I could easily blame the men, but I can definitely see in a couple situationships, short-term things, that it was my fault that something didn't work out. I actually had a friend that I'm in a social group with that I went on a date with that follows us on TikTok, and he commented on one of my videos this week. And I know it's him. I know it, I know him. And so I read his comment and I felt like he was saying that the reason people are staying single is possibly just because women aren't giving men a chance. And I felt a little attacked because I knew we went on a date and I knew I didn't feel like it was a love connection. And he is a great, great guy. And so I feel like nobody has to be to blame. I mean, I think that both sexes are equally to blame. I think we are all frustrated and fed up. And I think that it's very hard for us to see our fault when one or two dates or even just a match that, you talk to them and it doesn't work out. It's easy to say it's nothing that I did. And it's probably not anything that you did. I think people either feel it right away or they don't feel it right away. And so if a woman likes a man and it seems like it's going somewhere and he's attractive and they're having great conversation and he doesn't ask her out for a second date, he sucks. And I hate all men. When
Yeah.
in reality, it just wasn't a good fit. And the next guy might be a good fit, or the next woman for him might be a good fit. But we're just all really eager to blame the opposite sex because otherwise it's us.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I agree with you. I think that's absolutely, I mean, that's a very astute observation on your part. The last part of this lady's message that said, yet they want to get laid.
Yeah. Well, they do want to get laid.
They do want to get laid, but it's an interesting thing, to me at least. If if she is openly hostile towards men, which based on this conversation, she probably is, and the men are openly hostile towards her, at that point, the man is probably just going, well, you know what? If we hate each other, let's at least fuck and at least get something out of this.
And you're not wrong. I have another friend, and I'm not going to say how I even know him, but he's seen me naked, but only under a sheet. And we were talking
Is that
this
naked?
week also, and he was saying flat out, he does a lot of dating, and he loves to date, and he hasn't necessarily met the person that he wants to have a relationship with, but he really, really likes to have sex, and he was getting some heat for enjoying sex. And he said, you know what? I'm going to be honest. I have nothing to hide. You know what? Until I meet the woman that I want to settle down with, I'm just going to have a lot of sex. And you know what? Kudos to him, because women feel that way too. Just because it's not going to be a lifelong relationship doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with men or women hooking up. If that's what both parties want, we are grown-ups here. I don't think that having sex is something that makes an attack worthy. Period.
Right. I just know there's a lot of women who get very upset that men, and again, the stories I've heard, they're sometimes pretty gross, where it's like they haven't even traded phone numbers yet in the dating app, and he's asking for sex.
Well, that's different. I mean, to me, that's a little disgusting. That's an automatic unmatch for me.
Yeah.
When somebody jumps the gun, I'm not looking for easy hookups, but I'm not against anybody who is. I have a lot of friends who are hooking up and having a great time. I have had situationships that I knew weren't going to go anywhere. I mean, hey, we're here for a good time, not a long time.
You got to scratch the itch.
Yeah. All right. Now you can read your last comment.
Okay, we're going to read this last comment, and I just love this. This was posted. The user ID is Peaceful Unicorn 618. My husband of 42 years died earlier this year. Now, of course, you read that and you're like, oh, my husband of 42 years died earlier this year. I don't miss him a bit. Frankly, the marriage wasn't that great. I'm loving my life now. I wouldn't want to be married again for all the tea in China.
Hey, well, good for her.
I love that so much.
I don't blame her.
And see, now that is a conscious decision to stay single. And by the way, a pretty damn good one too. If you're married for 42 years and had a shitty marriage,
right? Hey, I say this on TikTok all the time. All that matters is you're happy. All that matters is you're happy. If you're happy being single, stay single. If a great guy comes along and he's going to make you happy, or a great woman comes along and she's going to make you happy, hey, try it out. Maybe you will be happier. And if you're not, you can go back to being single and still be happy. I mean, again, I just think to close down and close off all options is ridiculous at any point in your life. But I'm not the one that gets to decide whether a woman or a man has had enough. And there have been plenty of times over the last 5 years where I have said, I have had enough of this. Yeah. But you know what? I don't date for 6 months and then you come back at it fresh and it still sucks. Yeah. And so with that said, I think you do you. And I love this article. I think that you guys should all go search for it. It's BuzzFeed. Do you remember the name of the article?
Yeah, it's actually in the show notes, Brian. It's at the bottom of the show notes. If you'd make sure that that gets it into the actual description, that'd be awesome.
Roger.
Yeah. So while Tom tells you to rate and review the show, you can also, while you're over there, look at the show notes another time.
Yeah, absolutely. So as Pam said, before we get into our next segment, always try to get everybody to rate and review the show. That is how we grow our little family of Talking Phase podcast family. Rate and review, share this with your friends and family, make a comment, tell us why you're single or why you're not. Just what do you think? Should you stay single if you are? Anyway, with that, let's get into that next segment.
You've got mail.
Oh, I'm ready. All right. So, Tom and Pam, my girlfriend and I have been together for 2 years. And while our relationship is great in so many ways, lately something has been bothering me. I know my partner had sex with her ex husband more than she does with me. She told me that she had to use her body to keep him happy and satisfied, like
Ooh,
which led to her having sex more frequently, even when she didn't always feel up to it. Well, haven't we all been there? Just kidding.
well,
At first, when we started dating, we had a lot of sex, but lately she's less interested. Recently, she opened up and explained that being with me has made her realize she doesn't need to use her body to make me happy. She told me that she feels safe and valued for who she is, and that's why she no longer feels the pressure to have sex as much. I'm glad I made her feel better, but I miss being intimate regularly, and we're only doing it 2 or 3 times a week now instead of every day. Ugh, what should I do? Oh,
oh,
what should he do?
dude, see,
Jerk it the rest of the time. For God's sake, give her a break.
he had me feeling so bad all the way up until that last sentence. 2 or 3 times a week. How can you survive?
She's like a champion.
Yeah. Holy shit. 2 or 3 times a week. I think like literally 99% of all men on earth would kill for that.
Well, let's state also though that they're not married. The numbers generally don't go up after marriage, they go down. My ex-husbands would be thrilled to vouch for that fact. And I do recall having sex every day in the beginning of relationships and probably in the beginning before I married them. I'm feeling a little guilty right now, actually. Yeah, I used to feel like I was being generous if we got it in once or twice a week. So 2 to 3 times a week, but they're just dating. So I don't know, like they're not married yet. If 2 to 3 times isn't enough for him, I don't know how he's going to tell her that she's wrong and that he's really sorry that she feels so good about herself, but he's going to need some more sex.
So, you know what? It's funny because I used to, I mean, again, it's probably TMI, but in my marriage, I used to talk, I mean, I would talk to the ex and she was at least empathetic to the fact that I wanted to have sex. I tried not to nag. I tried not to, I tried not to be a dick about it. But at the same time, can we try more than once every 2 or 3 weeks? So
What
again,
does it
when this guy's,
mean? I didn't understand what you mean when you say she was empathetic to the fact that you wanted more sex. She
she,
was like, I understand, but no.
yes, yes, yes. And so she would say, well, how often do you want it? And of course, every day. But she would say, and so I would try to find like a middle ground and say, how about like, let's try to average at least 1.x times per week where X is greater than 0. So it's like, how about, like once a week, but every once in a while, throw in twice a week. Is that too much to ask? And apparently it was, by the way. But this guy,
Yeah, what are we telling him? Are we telling him that he signed this horny in Florida? Poor guy. I mean, like for those of us that are single for a while, and you're complaining that you're getting laid 2 or 3 times a week and that you really like her. It sounds like let me go back to the beginning of this email. They've been together for 2 years. Everything is so great. Well, it's great in so many ways. I don't know. I think pick your poison. I think that if you screw up this relationship because you want to have sex more than 3 times a week, you're going to wind up with no times a week.
yes, yeah, you're going to go from 2 or 3 to 0 pretty damn quickly. And by the way, he also said that she opened up to him and said that the reason she's slacked off, if that's the right way to put it, is because he makes her feel safe and valued. So rather than just a sex object, she's valued as a person, which I think is great. Good for him for doing that. So you have this great opportunity to completely fuck up that, feeling that you've
Yeah.
given her. But my question is, and we don't know this, so we can only speculate. Why did she open up? Was he talking to her about it, or did she just come home one day and say, "Hey, horny in Florida, guess what? The reason I fucked my ex more than you is because he made me feel bad." I mean, there had to be some precipitating
Well, I
factor,
feel like
right?
in a 2-year relationship, they've probably talked about their exes as we do. And, you know, I feel like this is not something that he just found out. I feel like the amount that they're having sex has probably tapered off, and it probably has less to do with just the fact that he makes her feel like they don't need to do it as much as it does that that's just what happens when we're dating somebody for 2 years. Um, you know, I all I really can say to him, and I'm not trying to be unsympathetic, is count your blessings. If you have a lot of other great things that you like about her and you guys are hooking up 2 to 3 times a week, um, you're probably having sex more than most people. Um, I guess maybe you need to have a conversation before you marry her if that's where it's headed, and at least say, I don't know, what is he supposed to say? Like, if this isn't enough, don't marry her. Go find somebody that's a nymphomaniac, because I feel like she's great. I feel like if you go to her and say, "This is not enough, I need more," you're just gonna make her feel like her ex did, and then you need to be prepared that she's gonna walk.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's
That's
a reason he's her ex. And,
yeah.
my little sister used to say all the time, I just thought of this. She used to say that um, if you put a penny in a jar during the first year of marriage, if you put a penny in a jar every time you have sex, then take one out um, every time you have sex after your first year, you'll never run out of pennies.
Oh, see,
Um,
so it's just normal.
yeah. I mean,
And that's been my experience. I mean, like, I like sex, but, like, I don't know, I think that, like, once you've been in a relationship a while, 2 times a week is I that would be great for me. I
yeah.
mean, you know?
And it's funny because on my old podcast, My Crazy Divorce, one of the people I interviewed was an ex-girlfriend of mine who, we've stayed in touch all these years. And her ex-husband, when they got married, and they were these young, naive Mormon kids. They didn't know what the hell was going on. And so they got married and had sex every single day for 3 years.
Holy cow. I was
And
16.
what's that?
I said I was 16 the last time that happened. But I
I
mean
just
18. I mean
for
20.
yeah, for some reason, when she told me that, I remember just going, "That's kind of gross, actually." I mean, at some point, because in 3 years, at some point, one or both of them had to be sick. And I mean, you're coughing and sneezing, and I mean, I don't know. As a germaphobe, that just
Way to
kind of
take
grossed
it
me
way to
out.
take it to a negative.
Well, again, every day for 3 years, there's something wrong
It
with
was
that.
probably a lie at the end of the day.
Oh,
And
no, because she told the story. The reason that she was telling that story is because after 3+ years, when she finally had one day where she just said, "I'm not up for it," I guess that was like the beginning of the end of their marriage. He just
holy
went
cow, there are
batshit.
a
Yeah.
nymphomaniac special here.
Yeah. So anyway, that was just interesting to me. Anyway, that's it. I think I agree with you. This guy, horny in Florida, you've got it pretty damn good, dude.
Yeah.
Don't look a gift horse in the mouth. Be very careful what you say to your girlfriend, because you could be that next ex who made her feel like shit.
Yeah, quite honestly, count your blessings. All right, you guys. Well, thank you for your emails. You know that we love reading them. I tell you this every single episode. Please keep sending them in, talkingphase@gmail.com. I promise you, I will read whatever you send. And hopefully we'll read it on the show. And if we do, I will let you know when it will be read so that you can hear our sage advice and not screw up your relationships. So if you have a question for me or Tom or both of us, or even if you just want to suggest a topic, talkingphase@gmail.com.
Absolutely. That is awesome. Thank you, everyone out there, for listening. If you haven't yet, please take just a minute now to rate and review. Tell us what you think. What do you think? Should you stay single? Should horny in Florida having sex every single day? Like every red-blooded American should. American. Yeah. Be sure to share the podcast with your family and friends. We do this every single Friday, rain or snow or shine or whatever that saying is.
Hopefully it won't be snowing in North Carolina, but it probably will in Utah.
Shit. Thanks for the reminder. Be sure to follow us on TikTok, on Facebook, and Instagram. Pam does a great job curating all that stuff because I don't. And until next Friday, this is Pam and Tom signing off.
Have a great day. Have a great week. Have a great life.